What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at the New York Rangers. It's going to be an interesting offseason in the Big Apple. The Rangers have a couple of big restricted free agents. One of them they already re-signed. We're also hearing rumors about Kaapo Kakko. What's going to happen there? Maybe an offer sheet, maybe a trade. We're going to go over that all today. So let's start off with some signing news. So I think I mentioned this in my last video talking about the Rangers, but Vitaly Kravtsov has signed a one-year contract. I figured I'd mention it again at the very least, but Vitaly Kravtsov, a one-year deal. This is a deal that's going to ultimately get traded at some point this offseason, whether that's the draft or after the, once the free agency has opened up and teams are looking for depth guys. I think that's where Kravtsov's going to ultimately go. He's probably not at the top of most teams' priority list, but he is a former first-round pick. So people will consider that. Look, perfect example, none other than Lias Andersson, right? So I do think teams will take a chance on him. I don't think he's necessarily gotten a fair shake in New York, if I'll be honest. I know people have said he has to develop in the AHL. Why didn't he develop like some of the defensemen, like Niels Lundqvist, Braden Schneider, Robertson, all those guys? That is the situation at hand. So I do think they will look to try and move him. But obviously, I will keep you guys up to date on that. Sammy Blais also signs a one-year deal to stay with the New York Rangers. A one-year deal that will pay him over $1.5 million next season. It's a pretty fair contract. An unfortunate end to the season for Sammy Blais. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury that kept him out pretty much most of the second half of the season. The worst part of this, though, is it walks him straight into unrestricted free agency next summer. So it does kind of suck in that regard because chances are he will have a good season next year as long as he can stay healthy. I think the Rangers are willing to make that bet. They're also going to be close to the cap this summer, depending on some of the moves they make as well. And we'll get to that in a second. So Sammy Blais, he's going to have to earn it next year. He's going to get one more opportunity in New York. Hopefully it works out because he was a pretty big piece of that Pavel Buchnevich trade. And I think they would like to see some sort of return on that. So that's the latest on Sammy Blais. Other guys that have not yet signed at the making of this video. Andrew Kopp, what's going on there? So this is from Molly Walker. If Andrew Kopp thinks the Rangers are close to a Stanley Cup, expect him to stay. And I think most Rangers and fans definitely think there is a chance they could do this again next year. I think Andrew Kopp wants to be on a winning team. And who can really blame him, right? He's had some mitigating success with the Winnipeg Jets. And you look throughout most of this Rangers roster, there aren't a lot of former Jets on this team. Trouba. Did Nemeth play on the Jets? Obviously, Andrew Kopp. So it would be kind of interesting to see what kind of transpires here with Andrew Kopp. I know a lot of the Rangers fans really like Andrew Kopp. He's a 27-year-old guy. He's a utility knife. He's a guy that can play left wing, right wing, center. So he is a very easy guy for Gerard Gallant to move throughout the lineup. He can play first line, second line, third line, wherever you need him. I think that is a very valuable asset to the Rangers. I saw him score a freaking first-period hat trick against the Islanders, so I have a little bit of resentment to him for that, but he's a good hockey player. And if he were to go to the free agency market, he would definitely get a lot of money. So that's the thing. If he's willing to take maybe a slight bit less to stay with the Rangers, he wants to make sure they can win. And I think they will try to come to an agreement there. This is from ESPN. Tyler Mott and Justin Braun likely won't be back with the Rangers next season. I talked about Tyler Mott and Justin Braun earlier last week, and I mentioned they could come back. Don't expect them to come back, but maybe on cheap deals. It sounds like that will not be the case. I thought Tyler Mott was pretty good for the Rangers when he was there. Again, some injury issues did hurt him. Justin Braun was a deadline pickup, and they gave up, I think, a 6th or 7th round pick from the Flyers. Really no harm, no foul there. He was a depth addition. He did play a significant amount in the postseason for the Rangers. But at the end of the day, I think it is what it was. It was a rental, and he'll go back to free agency this year or Justin Braun might even just flat out retire at the age he's at right now at 35 years old. We're also hearing some stuff, and this is going to Elliot Friedman, and that is obviously the big piece of today's video. I've been making videos about the Blackhawks, and I could tell you one fan base that really wants Kaapo Kakko. It's the Chicago Blackhawks. So this is from Elliot Friedman. Teams will call the New York Rangers about Kaapo Kakko this offseason. And I don't think that's too surprising to Rangers fans or really anybody for that matter. Like I said, the one team I've heard, and like I said, their fans are very interested in Kaapo Kakko in a maybe Kirby Dach trade, which I don't think makes much sense for the Rangers' perspective. I get the idea that it's a center, but the Rangers have enough guys, whether it's Kopp or Strome or Hedel or Zibanejad. I think they have enough centers. I think in a Kakko trade, I don't know if that necessarily makes sense. The Rangers are good. They don't need defensemen, and they don't really need forwards. I don't know what they're really going to do with Kakko. Considering he was scratched in Game 6, that probably hurts things a little bit. So I don't know what's going to happen there. He is not available for arbitration rights this year, unlike Julien Gauthier, who I don't know what they're going to do with him. Maybe he's just a guy that re-signs on a 1 or 2 year deal, plays in Hartford, and maybe he gets his shot in the bottom 6 over the next couple of years. So I think that's something to look at. Kakko is really a name that if a team really likes him and really sees potential, there could be an offer sheet out there. Like I said, what team? I mean, the problem is you have to find a team that has cap space and is willing to give up draft picks. And I don't really see anybody out there that's willing to do that necessarily. Do the Devils? God forbid the Flyers. I mean, maybe you find a way if there's a deal out there where he takes a big kind of thing like Kotkaniemi, where they take their first and second round picks, right, from Carolina. Do they do that with the Flyers? And we know Chuck Fletcher's looking to go all in this summer. They just signed Tortorella. So I could see that maybe being a fit. I don't know where else there's really a fit there. So all this talk about offer sheets and this and that, if I'm a Ranger fan, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think they're trying to hype it up a little more, especially considering it's the Rangers fan base, and we know how things go with that. Ask the guy that got punched in the face. So overall, I think the Rangers, it's going to be more of they have to set their priorities. If we have to keep Kopp, does that mean Strome goes? If we have to keep Strome, does that mean Kopp goes? They're going to have their priority list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going down the ladder. And I do think Kakko is toward the top of that list. Despite being scratched, that kid line was so good for the Rangers this year. I do think they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep them together. And again, you have to look into the future here. Next summer, they have to re-sign some pretty big guys. Keandre Miller's out, off of his entry-level contract next summer. Alexis Lafreniere also off of his entry-level contract next year. Philip Hedel's off of his bridge deal next year. He'll be 23 years old next summer. He's going to be looking to make some money. So those are three pretty big assets for the Rangers that are due for a contract next year. So the Rangers have to be careful how much they invest in Strome and Kopp, because that is going to affect the other guys down the list. Now, I know I've also talked about this too. Frank Vatrano does want to return to the Rangers. Again, I think it's finding a way to fit him under the salary cap. He's going to have to take $1.5 million for maybe a 1 or 2 year deal, because the Rangers need that cap flexibility again for those guys that I have already mentioned. At the end of the day, we've already heard rumors about Georgiev as well this summer. He's an RFA. So it's going to be an interesting summer. I really want to see what the Rangers do. A lot of you guys were very on board with trading Patrick Nemeth and his $2.5 million contract. $5 million over the next 2 years. So you do the math, 2.5 per season. I think the Rangers have seen enough of him. Nils Lundqvist's name is out there. So you're looking at the Rangers trade block. There are guys out there. Georgiev. If they really don't like Kakko. Other names that could be out there: Patrick Nemeth, Nils Lundqvist, Vitaly Kravtsov. Those are 5 guys right there that have to different degrees, some value on the trade market. So the Rangers, if they do want to make some moves this summer, they definitely could. And if there is the scenario where the Rangers do pick up Patrick Kane, do you find a package where you just give the Blackhawks a ton of assets? You give them 2 first-round picks, Kravtsov, Kakko, and you call it a day. Maybe Nils Lundkvist as well, but you're getting Patrick Kane. Is that worth it? There is a scenario where the Rangers could do that. So let me know what you guys think of that. If there's a package where if it's 1 or 2 first-round picks, Kakko, Kravtsov, and Lundkvist, would you guys make that trade? Let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.